very quickly with a lot of excitement with a show of emoji. Can we just welcome our next speaker as she takes the floor? I want to see your emoji. I want to see you in the chat box. Thank you. Thank you, Rita. Thank you, Rita. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ayodele. Thank you, Luashe. Thank you so much. I'm going to unmute you now. Ireti, 1 second. Right. Perfect.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here and being with I'll say family because right now Ty and David is making me feel like I'm at home and they know the home. And then I also feel Bro David just made me feel the same way. It was so nice hearing from Shane, and I think I want to take Mercy Care job. I've been running away from it. Shan may just be that person that is pushing me into it. And it's so wonderful to see you too, bro. Why? So lovely to see you. And every beautiful faces. I'm happy to see you. One of the things I told myself is I don't talk about trauma. I've never been able to comprehend trauma in such a way that I want to speak with people of large audience. But so when answer on the status came, I was like, you're not running away. And I have to do it. And thank you, AY. Thank you for the organizers. Thank you, MC. Thank you, participants. Thank you for all the speakers. I really do appreciate this opportunity we're giving to the world to be heard, to be heard, to be heard. Thank you so much. I have 25 minutes. I'm a kind of person that talks a lot. So I want to really not talk today. So trauma is something that is recently trending. And everybody seems to understand what it is. But then when you hear the word trauma, what comes to your mind? I've heard people that wants to say, no, don't talk about it. I've heard people that wants to say, ooh, it's a lot for me. So it's cause for different reactions. Why? I think it's because of the peculiarity and then probably the misunderstanding that comes with it. So today, two major things I want to establish with other speakers, including the man of God I just spoke on, how childhood experiences alter, affect, influences our relationship, not just marital relationship, I must say. Trust me, ordinary platonic relationship. Trauma can affect it. It can influence it. You can begin to suspect your friend. You can begin to feel like your friend is a competition. And it is not just for anything, it is just trauma. And then to Shine, one of those things I love about our presentation is a story. I think in my practice, I'm learning not to say my story too much because I think it's gross or something. But then I love our vulnerability. I do love it. It takes courage to speak about the things you went through in a open space. Trust me, not in a safe space. It shows you have healed. One of the questions people often ask a popular minister of God, you will know her, Jesmeya, is that why do you keep telling us your father raped you? If you've forgiven him, if you've moved on. And she said, the way I am talking about it now is from a space of healing. It is not from the pain. Now, trauma, when you're healed, you can speak about the things you went through, the things you've gone through, smiling. Now, I remember that when my mom died, as I was 8 years old when my mom died, that's the trauma. I'm still coming there. So one of those things that specifically stood out was first 5 years, I would lock myself in the room, I would cry for no reason. I would cry. Now, at this age, I have a better relationship with that trauma. I could talk about it anywhere and not cry. I could talk about it anywhere and still cry. But then there's just something inside of me that makes that pain not to be too much. I was talking with someone recently and she was telling me about everything she went through. And she was like, I would just speak what I want to say. It's a lot. So I told her, I said, do you know that you are healing? And she said she doesn't know. That is one thing about trauma. Sometimes we went through a lot, like the person that asked question, and she's talking about things she's gone through. There are a lot of perception to it. There are a lot of ways I can answer that. Now, one thing is that she may be healing and she doesn't know. Why? Because the overwhelmingness of healing can be like trauma too. Because you're going back into that experiences often and not, and it feels as though you are still in the mess because it still feels real to you. So let me start by saying I want to read what is my paper. Let me start by saying that I will give us 5 words. Okay, I think I have 6 words here. And those words are things that would define trauma for you. So I'm coming to you today to help you heal your trauma. And trust me, it's just the first phase. So I won't deceive you because I'm not a motivational speaker into thinking everything I want to provide today is going to heal you totally, but it's going to be a step into it. Trust me. Now, so these 5 words, number one, experiences. And this experience is the events or the events of life that are centered towards you, that involves you and require your input, things that happened to you. That is one. Then experiences as well. Those things that happened within you. They are experiences. They are experiences too. And the third one is exposure. And exposure is similar to experience, but in this way, I would categorically say that they are things that you are exposed to. You may not be involved in it, but you are exposed to it. You are exposed to somebody watching pornography. You are exposed to someone, your father and your mother beating each other. Is an exposure. It did not happen to you, but you were exposed to it. You were opened to it. It's now also different from being married to someone that domestically beats you up. Do you get it? So domestically beating you up is experience. You went through it. But exposure is what you watched, what happened in front of you. Now, emotional overwhelmingness. Now, that is the load of stress on your emotion. The loads of stress, the overwhelmingness, just is an English word. Overwhelming emotion. Your emotion got gets intensified. Then number 5, emotional capacity. What is emotional capacity? Emotional capacity is one thing I will dwell in as we go over to help you embrace healing. Emotional capacity is your ability to handle your emotion, ability to see through your emotion, ability to understand your emotion, ability to manage your emotion, ability to express your emotion. Now, mental capacity. Mental capacity is like the chief boss in the office that is commanding every other person's. That is your psychological strength. That is your psychological power. That is your psychological anything. Now, trauma is what I describe as an emotional distress that overwhelms your emotional state, emotional capacity, such that those distress make it difficult for you to process life or process anything. Let me go over it again. Sorry. Trauma is an emotional distress that overwhelms your emotional states. Now, let me say to you, a young girl of 5 years that is sitting on her father's lap and started seeing her father messing up with her body. That is an emotion, that is an event. That event is a distress that does one thing to our emotional capacity. Now, when they finish, over time, when I sit with people in sessions and they're trying to recall the genesis of their pains, one of those things is that they break down. Some will cry. Some will be like, no, I don't want to touch it. Some will be like, no, I'm not coming back. Yeah, because it overwhelms them. So trauma is anything that those I think those big English is too much. Trauma is anything that overwhelms your emotional capacity. Everybody knows emotion. Laugh, happiness, sorrow. Now, if you go through anything that overwhelms your sorrow, if you go through anything that overwhelms your joy, if you go through anything that intensifies those things, it could be trauma. Now, trauma is a collective or collectively what happened to us and what happened within us. So trauma is collective of the experiences we have outside and those ones we have within us. So when something happened to us And those things, like I said, write it, overwhelms your emotion. You begin to imagine, how do I solve this thing? Should I scream on daddy not to touch me again? Should I tell mommy about it? Why would daddy touch me? What does it mean? Why will my mommy have an accident? Why will my daddy have an accident? That's it, because you can't cope. Because you're trying to look for a way out, because you're trying to solve it, and it is not for a 5-year-old child to solve. It is not for anybody to solve, whether 5, whether 2, whether 20 years, because your right was taken. I'm just using that one as an example. And I'm sorry for anyone that's going through that, went through that. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. Please, it's just an example. Please, I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. So, unresolved trauma, we may have to talk about that because I saw Brother David mentioning it a lot. And it was, in fact, I love his session, especially the fact that I went through the relationship route. Now, unresolved trauma is the traumatic events we did not process. Anything that overwhelms you, but you did not process. So, in the process of saying, why will my mommy have an accident? Why is my daddy and my mommy fighting? And you can't resolve it. You can't make a meaning out of it. Why will my husband scream on me? You can't resolve it. You can't make a meaning out of it. It becomes unresolved. It's not solved. Which makes it that every trauma needs to be solved. Every trauma needs to be solved. Every trauma needs to be addressed. Every trauma needs to be spoken of. I don't know how to stick to paper, but I'll try. Things we do with trauma. Now, what are things that we do with trauma? I'm careful to say that we Africans going to, no, trauma happen everywhere in the world. As long as you are human, trauma happen everywhere. As in fact, when I now got to UK, I now even said that it be like say we don't get trauma. It be like say we don't get trauma. It be like say we did well, very well. But then, even though we still go through something, because trauma is one thing, it is personal. Trauma is personal. Now, let me give an example. If you're 5 in your family, and you both, all of you in your family, your siblings, 4 of you, let's say 4, lost your parents on one day. I'm still coming there, but I'll give that as an example. You see, the way 4 of you will react to that event is going to be different. So it is personal. And why is it personal? Individual's emotional capacity, individual emotional strength, individual psychological power. So what are the things we do to trauma? Number 1, we fight trauma. We numb it. We just pretend it's not there. And that will lead me to talk about traumatic responses, where we have the fight, the flight, the freeze, the frown. There are a lot of those things, which means what you do when you go through that thing is that you are fighting. Some children will fight with their body. Don't touch me again. And if they continue to touch them, they become aggressive. Those are the people that when you touch them, they'll scream. And some people will not be. So that even when the abuser comes back, they will just be, okay, do what you want. Do what you want to do. Do what you want to do. And they go back inside and start judging themselves. Hey, I'm not good. In fact, that's why you even mess me up. That's why you even do that. That's why you even do this. Now, some will freeze. Those are the freezing ones. Now, some will. So we will do different things with our trauma. We will fight it. We will freeze. We have flights, everything. There are a lot of responses that we will give to trauma. Now, and that is to say that, one of those things African people experiences that we don't talk about is our parents having 2, 3 wives, fathers being absent in the life of the children. That thing is trauma. Moms being absent, mom leaving the children and going away to marry another husband is traumatic. So a child will be thinking, maybe I'm not good enough. That's why daddy left home. Maybe I'm not good enough. That's why mommy and daddy are not together. So when a couple is going through divorce and the mom, like the sister that is here and is listening to this, I know you're trying to heal and I know you're trying to solve a lot of things. But trust me, as much as those things complicated in your head, they are complicated in your children's head too. Now, one of those things that helped me when my mom died was the fact that I had a dad that could talk about our deaths with us. So now, We will now all sit down together. We'll not be talking about my mom. We will not now all be crying. That was a level of vulnerability I now appreciated in my family. That we will sit down together, we will talk about my mom, and we'll be crying. Even when my dad remarried, he will his wife will be sleeping in the room. She knows, she doesn't mind. Sometimes she'll be with us, and we'll all sit down, we'll be talking about my mom, and we'll all be sleeping. So we were able to heal together as a family. Now, the second thing we do with trauma is get familiarized, get normalized. You familiarize with it, you normalize. So I think that's the way life should go. Now, for instance, someone that the father is absent in his life, in her life, or his life, that man will grow up, that young man will grow up to think that every man should not be in the life of their family. I was in school of nursing. I used to have a classmate that I just found out that she doesn't want to get married. She doesn't want to get married, and she's so lovely to me. So one day we got talking. She ran away from me from school of nursing. We met in post basic again. She saw me. She did not greet me. She was running. She said, I said, excuse me. No, I was going to get angry. But then I just said, well, you can't show more in it, Jared. Let me understand that. So when we said, Ireti, when I saw you that they gave you admission, she was a year senior. Me, I didn't join my mate when they finished. I was going to do something else, but it wasn't working. So she said, when I saw you again, I said, this girl will not leave me. This girl will not leave me. I don't want to be close to her. I said, what can I do? I said, you said it is from you that you are making me believe that marriage can be positive. I say, eh? I said, I thought your daddy always brings something to school. And if you see this man, you go buy bread, you go buy milk, you go, they do the daughter. The girl said, my dad is a children minister in the church. And one of the pastors, he said, you do not want to know what he does to my mom. He beats her to coma. And they are like six in their family. The man will struggle to send this girl to school, all because he's expecting a gain from that girl. As when that girl was talking to me, the father had remarried another woman, has left their mother with six children, and the woman is selling fufu, and the girl is struggling. Those are trauma we don't talk about in African homes. And she was like, it was when you told me about your daddy's marriage to your stepmother, to your mother, your brother's marriage, that I thought marriage could be good, but I still don't want to do it. And I'm like, excuse me. So we get familiarized with it. And when we say familiarized, it doesn't mean in a positive way. It means it builds a pattern of behavior for us. It dictates life for us. It dictates the way we see things. Then number three, we label it. I want to rush because I want to cover everything. We label it. Now, what does it mean labeling trauma? Sometimes some people have labeled things that are not for trauma. They've called it trauma. Oh, you want to traumatize me. Oh, you want to traumatize me. You are traumatizing me. In my head, I'll just feel like, they said we listen, we don't judge. But this one, I will judge it in my mind. Because they may not really be trauma. Did they overwhelm your emotion? Maybe no. Maybe you can handle them. But the thing is that you choose not to handle them because you want somebody to feel bad, overindulgence. All right. So we label it. And what does it mean label? That's one aspect of labeling. Then the second aspect of labeling is exaggerating it. Now, when I'm saying exaggerating, I'm not saying that your trauma is not valid. It is personal. But the example Bro David gave, I love it. Like that's the way they do in my family. It's both normalizing and labeling. You can't change me. Have you seen people? You will see some married men, marriage will be breaking. Some married women, married gays, and they'll say, I will not change. I will not change. I will not change. I will not change. Then number four, nightmares and flashbacks. There was a time I sat on my status, on my Nigeria life status, and I was like, I just woke up with a feeling I want to help someone with overcome their tormenting or recurrent nightmare. I don't know if you still remember, or maybe it's not my status that time. Like recurrent nightmare. I don't type back on my UK line. I was just like recurrent nightmares, and they were like, I was just writing a lot of write-ups there, and somebody very close to me came to my chat and said, I've been having this dream running. This is somebody that in my head, I never thought they molested her. In my head, we were so close. We never talked to that stage. I said, I've been running, seeing myself. When she narrated the dream, I said, what? Where have you always been seeing yourself? So you see me, I'm a Christian, I'm a child of God. I believe God speaks through dreams. But then I agree with this man that says that sometimes dream is a flood of what comes in our thoughts. But then that thought may be refined enough for God to speak to you. But then that thought may be contaminated enough for your trauma to speak to you in it. So when you don't heal, you will be thinking God is speaking to you, but it is your trauma that is echoing loud and loud and loud and loud in your being. So when she went about her story, and I told her, I asked her, where did you always see yourself? She said something. I said, what happened to you that year? And she went like, I don't want to talk about it. I said, so you are not ready for this session. So when we eventually finished, do you know what she said? She said, give me your account number. I want to pay you. She was like, trust me, you are good with what you do. You are good with what you do. Because if that money took me till 10 a.m. with her, and we were analyzing, and I told her, you know, the next dream she had after we talked, it was she smashing the people that were running, like she faced them and was smashing them. I've seen people in sessions that they will say, I'm afraid to sleep. I'm afraid to sleep because when I sleep, I see strange things. I see my abusers. I see this event. And after one session, they will say, do you know I dreamt? I'm even now scared of the dream I dreamt. I don't used to be that confident in my dream. But today, I took a match. I was beating that person. I was say, that is healing. That is the fact that some things is now being rewired in your mind. So sometimes people will just sit down and be having flashbacks of events. Now, the fifth one, assumptions. We now assume that trauma is only happens in childhood. Trauma don't often happen in childhood alone. It happens every time in our life. As long as you're having experiences in life, as long as you have been exposed in life, you might be traumatized. So that's it. Then few highlights, which is I have 4 minutes to go. Few highlights of trauma. Now, what are things I personally would love you to know that can complicate your healing? Now, let me talk about it, your personality. It is really underrated, but your personality can complicate your healing. I'm a mom and I'm raising a highly sensitive child. And trust me, every time I look at him, I'll just be like, only abuse on Moisha. Is it that it's not wise? He is. But he's so kind to a fault. What kind of kind thing? Kind that the silence does not have boundary. If you come to my house today, my son will go into the kitchen and give you water. And trust me, I'm not the kind of person that will do that. His daddy will do that. Because his dad is loyal. And my husband, I will look at him and say, who loyal like your loyalty? Excuse me, this personality can't be picked up because a narcissistic person, a bad person, we see kindness as weakness. They don't see that strength. So your personality. Now, what is personality? Personality is both your temperament and your experiences. So what forms our personality is temperament and experience. Now, what is temperament? Temperament is your naturally inherited behavior from your grandparents, not from your parents, your grandparents. So when you see your child, trace your mother-in-law, trace your father-in-law. If you come from one of them, look from you. Your father, your mother, your father-in-law, and your mother-in-law. Please bring that. They picked it from there. So your personality can disrupt your healing because you see some people are quite sensitive, highly sensitive. If you go through the 14 types of personality, there are a lot. Whatever you say to them, stick to their mind. It doesn't go away. They personalize it and all of that. Now, so that's it. Your personality. Then environment where you live. Trust me, the fact that your parents and your parents don't fight, because I grew up in a Christian home. My mom died, but then I grew up in Itoko. If you're in Nigeria, you know Itoko. If you're in Abeokuta, you know Itoko. You know those interior Itoko that they used to do Ogun, Shango, all of those things. So those things influenced me. They influenced my thinking to an extent. They influenced my mentality of achieving my dreams. And that's one thing we don't talk about in trauma. Achieving my dreams and feeling because you won't be able to think beyond that thing. It's like a covering over your head. No clarity. That is why people will tell you that when you go to some certain churches, You say, I've heard people say that the day they went to Kosa, they saw people wearing fine shoes, fine suits, and they were like, I don't know if you saw that clips of Pastor Lazarus. And I'm like, trust me, it is your environment that dictates your mentality sometimes. So if you are being abused in a place like Itoko, you may think it is normal. But if you are abused in Otedola's house, you will not think it is normal. You will not even, you will know it is not normal. You will know it is not normal. Sorry, I have a thought like it. You will know it's not normal. You will run for your life. Then the third one is your traumatic experiences, your traumatic responses. Now, responses, how you respond to those traumas. Remember, I talked about all those things. So those things can delay your healing at one point or the other. Now, embracing healing in trauma. What does it look like? What does it seem to be embracing? Healing can be messy. Now, that's the truth. I tell you, I've been trying to look for a word to coin that messy thing, to make messy look like, oh, healing is fine. But healing can be messy. And if I don't tell you, but you have to choose which one you want to stay in. Trauma is messy. Traumatic responses is messy. Healing is messy. And one of those videos I made recently, I've not finished making them because the cinematographer guru Isaiah is saying that it needs to be the more better light. Is the fact that we don't grieve. We don't get familiar with grief. What does it mean to familiarize ourselves with grief? When you are healing from your traumatic experiences, when you are healing from divorce, you will grieve. And that grief may make you think like you are traumatized. It may make you think like you are not healing. It is just grief. It is the fact that you are in circles of denial, acceptance, bargaining. Okay, but I can try again. But I can try again. It's a circle, and it looks like you're messy. So healing is like grieving. The whole entirety of healing is like grieving. You are grieving the experiences, and you are looking forward to future that is unknown to you. That is why you need a professional beside you, holding your hand, talking to you. So healing can be messy. Trauma is messy. Now let's stand. Where do you want to stand? Choose your mercy. Trauma, choose your mercy. Me, I will choose healing. Because I know that the beginning of healing can be messy. The continuation of it is not. The continuation of it, one of those things I tell my clients every time they come is that this session is us finding you. What does it mean to finding you? What does it mean to find you? It means is when you are healing in trauma, we are not finding you from what happened to you. We are finding you by creating new experiences. Now, the Bible says, as all things, no. For God made things work together for the good of those that love Him, for your good. Now, one of those things I heard recently and I love is the fact that God, you don't make a ministry in your mess. Your mess is not always a message, but the fact that you were abused and you healed can help you to walk your evangelistical ministry. So you don't have to be, oh, I'm talking about abuse. I may stand out for abuse. I may stand out for divorce. You may just be a perfect evangelist that is working on evangelism. But you went through trauma. It doesn't have to be a message. Someone like me, most of the things I deal with, I don't go through them. But does that mean I don't know them? I know them. I acknowledge them because when you come to a session with me, I tell you to be open enough for me and give me one day to go and sit down with you. When I sit down with you, I enter your life. I assume a role in your life. It can be traumatizing. And those moments, trust me, my husband suffered for it. And now, so I will tell us that you have the right to be heard. You have the right to be heard. If you are trying to heal, you have the right to be heard and speak your trauma in a space that it can be understood. So I made a video on my Instagram. One day I was making my daughter's hair. I'm wearing a wig. I'm that open. I'm wearing a wig. And I'm not the kind of person I'm not a woman that will stay in front of me and say, oh, my hair is long. Don't cut this one away. Cut it. In my lifetime, I've cut my hair 3 times. 3 times. Because I don't place too much value on it. So when I make my daughter's hair and I see people's face, I see his brother's face, I see my goddaughter's face, I see my friend's face, I see my daddy's face, I'll be like, she me normal. I don't understand that joy. But I wouldn't make it for her because she's a girl and she needs to make hair in a country like this so that they won't think he's a boy. They won't start putting it in her hair. So now, that day I was washing her hair and the face of those that are happy for her is the one I'm seeing. I'm not even seeing myself. And Holy Spirit whispered to me and said that you couldn't relate with that joy in their heart because you were going to share. And I'm like, all right, that is it. So when you speak your trauma in a space that it cannot be understood, it cannot be related with, it is like that. They will just be like, kill on so, kill on so. So when you call them out, go training, they may also be traumatized and they don't know. Now, another thing is tell your story in a space that can be understood. So Sharon talked about that, Brother David talked about that. You have the right to be heard. You have the right to be taken serious. Then awareness to your trauma may be low. So sometimes awareness is not enough to help you go through trauma because it may be low, because you nubbed it, you are denying it, you are thinking it never happened to me. My daddy me cool, mommy me cool, you are denying it. Won't rape me. You are denying. So your awareness may be low. So what you are doing in therapy session is to create an awareness and familiarity with that event. All right, I'm rounding up. Now, next one, take responsibility. When you enter your pain and hear yourself, you hear yourself differently. When you enter your pain and hear yourself differently, when I'm in a session with people, I tell them, just go over this pain once again for me to enter it and you can leave it. It is not all trauma we have to recall. Not all of them. That is for your therapies to judge. I have a spiritual daughter that over the last 6 years of our life, we've been working closely. I know she's going through traumatic experience. I know she has gone through traumatic experiences, but I never for once tell her to recall it until she was ready. And when she was ready, I told her, you are fine. Like, I just needed to recall it to help you go through life. So you don't have to recall it. But one thing I love about her is that she stood with me. She was with me all the time. Now, be ready to learn and meet a new version of yourself. Be ready to take responsibility. It can be hard, but trauma is that place that looks like salvation. And I will always say, healing is that thing that looks like salvation. Trauma, so healing and salvation looks the same because you are learning to walk again. You are learning to live again. You are learning to create new patterns. Now, seek help, not attention. That's one of the mistakes they seek attention. The people will just come to me and be seeking attention. As busy as I am, I don't understand. Seek help. I want to help you. I want to help you. Of course, I'm also learning to give that attention, but then it can be draining. Then number two, I think the last one for now. Maybe I'll answer that question. Now, constantly empowering your emotional capacity. Now, everything every time your stress is greater than your emotional capacity, we will break down. Every time your stress is bigger than your emotional capacity, you break down. Now, the question I want to ask you before I leave this place because of my time, I'm now 30, is the fact that what does your emotional capacity look like? What does your emotional capacity look like? What can you carry? What is your level of sensitivity? What is your level of emotional stress? What stresses you? And creating boundary help us overcome trauma. So I don't have to finish it because of the next speaker. I believe they will do judgment too. Most of the things I have not done because some people have done judgment to things I cannot do judgment. So thank you for listening. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mama Ireti. Thank you so much.